today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about what it means to be married and feel like you're just a roommate with a ring. Maybe what you know is each other's patterns of life. You don't really know each other's feelings. A woman, she's asked, we've built a great life, so why doesn't it feel like a great marriage? If you feel like your marriage is more disconnected and more tumultuous now than it was, then it's moving in a direction that's not healthy for it. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship, and I'm your host, Rich Heller. And today we're talking about what we've commonly called roommate syndrome, but today we're calling it roommates with rings. This is when two people have been living in what seems like a very successful marriage on the outside. All the right trimmings are there, but what it feels like to them is they're leading parallel lives. They're not even college roommates. They're more like renters, people who are renting rooms in the same apartment or house. A female listener asks, everyone says we're a great team, but why do I feel so alone in my marriage? How many of you are hearing that question and it resonates with you a little? I get a lot of couples who come to me saying that even though they're in the same house together, even though they're still sleeping in the same bed, even though they share in responsibilities for the children, they feel alone even when they're together. Couples may excel logistically. In fact, many couples excel logistically. They're good at bringing in as much money as they have going out. Some not so much. They're good at making sure there's clothes on the children, there's food on the table, everyone goes to school, everyone gets to work, they do the right vacations. Maybe they go to Disney. But emotionally, something's missing. There's joy in those trips with the children. There's joy in that time with the children. But the most challenging times might be when they're alone together. It looks like a golden marriage, which we talked about in our previous episode, but it feels like a partnership without passion. In fact, I would argue it might not even be a partnership. In a true partnership, each partner feels a sense of fulfillment. And I would argue that in this kind of marriage, when you start to feel like you're leading parallel lives, there's not as much fulfillment as each individual would like. And that's really what we're driving for here. Because it's not the things that matter. It's not even the places that you go. It's the rhythm and feeling of your lifestyle. Is it together or is it apart? Tom says we barely fight. We run the house well. So why do I feel like something's missing? And Tom, for a guy to ask that question is awesome. Men often distract themselves with their individual interests. And if they think something's missing, they think it must be maybe they need more gym time or maybe they need to go out with the fellas. But to notice that something's missing in your relationship is a great observation. And it shows emotional maturity and maybe even emotional fluency. Emotional fluency occurs when we're in touch with our feelings, when we can put words to them and we can communicate them to one another. Many couples are not having conversations that encompass emotional fluency. There may be attempts at it, but it's not always successful. Instead, their conversations tend to be about schedules, logistics, maybe even a to-do list. And that's important. Don't get me wrong. These are important conversations. One of the recommendations that I make to all the couples that I work with, because not everyone even functions that well on this level, is that they have a game plan for the year, that they have monthly meetings. This is logistics I'm talking about here, to talk about how they're doing with the logistics, and that they have weekly meetings to see how they're doing with the logistics. And we also recommend regular caring communication, that those meetings not just be about logistics, but there be special time to talk about the relationship itself. Very often we talk about date night as being that time. Date night can be fun, but sometimes date night needs to be caring communication in which we develop emotional fluency. When conversations are just about logistics, if they're even about that, then we lose sight of emotion. And when that happens at night, we find ourselves side by side in the same bed wondering, who are you? Are you the person I married? Maybe we find ourselves going out to dinner and being on our phones. I see whole families doing this today on screens and barely talking. Maybe we find ourselves going on vacations with the kids and mostly doing things separately with the kids because we need rest or we need time out. Or maybe we're doing things with the kids and we each have one. Or maybe we're doing things with the kids and we're only focused on the kids. Nothing wrong with that. But there needs to be time when we're focused on each other. It might be in this kind of relationship, when you're a roommate with a ring, that sex is almost never happening. Or when it is happening, maybe it's only happening after a good fight, make-up sex. Or maybe it's just that you both feel like you should be having sex, a sense of duty, but you don't feel emotionally present when you do it. A part of you is even resentful, even though you feel a personal need to have physical connection and release of emotion. It doesn't feel like real connection. It's a routine. Maybe what you know is each other's patterns of life, but you don't really know each other's feelings. A 2021 study found that 34% of long-term married couples describe themselves as roommates more than partners. That is a little more than 1 out of 3. That means 1 out of 3 of the couples that you come across feel like roommates. They describe themselves as roommates more than partners. Those are the ones who are cognizant of it. I would argue that this is happening in more marriages, but people choose to be unconscious about it. Maybe because they grew up with this and they feel like it's the way you're supposed to do marriage. A woman has written in and she's asked, we've built a great life, so why doesn't it feel like a great marriage? She points out that they have all the bells and whistles, but the marriage itself feels hollow. This can happen when we're over-functioning in our roles. We're over-functioning in our role as provider if you're the primary wage earner. Maybe we're over-functioning in our role as parent if we're taking care of the children, or maybe we're over-functioning in our role as manager if we're managing the connection to other parents socially, family, etc. There's all kinds of roles that we can wear and avoid actual connection. Or maybe it's because you're under-functioning in relationship maintenance. Relationship maintenance is kind of what I was talking about a little earlier. It's those moments where you talk about what? Your feelings. You talk about, hey, where are we now compared to where were we then? Let me give you a really simple measure. For example, if you feel like your marriage is more disconnected and more tumultuous now than it was, then it's moving in a direction that's not healthy for it. If you feel like your marriage is not perfect, it ever will be, right? Who has a perfect marriage? And you can see that it's so much better than it was, or is at least better than it was. And you can see that you have vehicles for continuing to improve it in your relationship, or maybe through outside support, like Rich in Relationship, or a therapist, or a family counselor, or a spiritual leader. Then you're getting better. So which end of the scale are you on? Did you start out great and you feel like it's degrading? Or did you start out great and you feel like it's improving? Or did you start out mediocre and feel like it's improving? Do you feel like it's improving or getting better? Only you know for sure. If it's getting better, then probably you're talking about your dreams. If it's getting better, you probably have a shared vision for your family. If it's getting better, you probably have milestones, emotional milestones. I'm not talking about when are we going to get that bigger house milestones only. That's not bad. You can have that too. I'm talking about emotional, where people feel secure and safe. I'm talking about trust. I'm talking about vulnerability. I'm talking about intimacy here. Or If things aren't getting so good, if maybe they're degrading, maybe you find that you're busy all the time. And I'll be completely transparent. I've been a little reluctant to do this particular podcast because something I'm guilty of. I'm guilty of being a human doing instead of a human being. And the fact is that results in life are created on how we're being, where we come from when we do it. So if we're coming from a place of feeling unfulfilled and not talking about it, the actions we take are going to be colored by that come from, and the coloring of that come from is going to impact the results. The fact is that when we become humans doing, because we're avoiding the being part, being ourselves, being together, then no matter what we do, we're going to get results that are less than ideal. The results we're looking for in a marriage is a joyful, prosperous partnership. But when we stay busy all the time without looking at how we're feeling or what the source of that feeling is it an old hurt or is it something that's really going on? Then we start recreating that feeling. The feeling becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And no matter how hard we do, no matter what we do, we recreate that feeling. Sometimes we need to focus on the feelings first. Another reason might be that we have a cultural script, maybe from our family. Let's look at what the script is here in America. Here in America, we're not big on feelings. We're big on getting stuff done. We're big on action. We're big on moving forward. We're big on being winners. We're not so big on being vulnerable because vulnerable equals risk and danger. And there is a hidden cost to this. Joe says, isn't we're fine enough? Do marriages really need more than that? Well, what does fine mean? How are you doing? I'm fine. Our culture has programmed us to just be okay, to not be vulnerable. When people ask how we're doing, 9 times out of 10, we just say, oh, we're fine. We don't generally say, you know what? I really didn't sleep very well. And Catherine and I had a fight last night, and it's impacting the way I feel at work today, and I don't know what to do with it. No, because number one, sometimes the people who ask us how we're doing are not people who need that information. But number two, we're kind of conditioned not to share it, except maybe with a therapist when the stuff really hits the fan. Fine is a cover word. And in marriages, doing fine is not enough. Fine marriages equal long-term drift, possibly an affair, and certainly silent coexistence. Affairs will occur because our needs are not being met. I'm trying to find a brilliant acronym for fine. N has got to be needs, right? Needs and expectations. Fuck internal needs and expectations. That's what fine means. It sounds terrible. Farts on internal needs and expectations. But when we say fine, we are basically putting a blanket over our own needs and expectations. We're not going to tell people about the unfulfilled stuff. We just want to, in our culture, yeah, we're doing great. We see, I got the right house, I got the right car, I got the wife, got the right kids, the kids are getting good grades, everything's great, unless there's a crisis. Marriages are never fine if the internal needs and expectations are not being articulated. Marriages are never fine if the internal needs and expectations are not being met on some level, or at least renegotiated. Sometimes we have expectations that are unreasonable, right? That would be maybe we have a hurt or we have a lesson from our family that just doesn't fit our marriage days, an unreasonable expectation, like you're always going to be the greatest partner and no matter what happens, you're always going to be there for me. That would be an unreasonable expectation. Emotional neglect compounds invisibly over years. When we ignore our internal needs and expectations and fail to have our needs acknowledged by ourselves and fail to have our expectations acknowledged by ourselves or by our partner because we're not really sharing them adequately or in a way that they can receive is a better way to put it. When we do that, it feels like emotional neglect. it feels like we're neglecting ourselves. They feel like we're neglecting them. We feel like they're neglecting us. And it compounds over years invisibly, because mostly this is happening on an unconscious level because we're not talking about it. When we don't talk about it, everything gets pushed down, sublimated, and stuffed to the unconscious level instead of brought up to enrich our lives and our marriages. Couples who describe their marriage as fine but not close are 3 times more likely to separate within 10 years, says the Journal of Marriage and Family in 2020. How do we get back to feeling alive without dropping all our responsibilities? What a great question. Like, how often do you feel like, hey, if I could just speak for myself, if we could just go back to that resort in Mexico that we went to on our honeymoon, where all we did was eat, swim, and be intimate and talk to each other about our future. If we could only go back to that, where that time where we didn't have work, we didn't have children, it was just the two of us. Oh my God, that was so special. Actually, I've kind of romanticized it though, if I'm going to be honest. Like the truth is that we went on that vacation and a part of me was like, oh my God, this is so intimate. When are we going to go back to work? And I was kind of relieved when it was over and I got to go back to work and be busy again. I wonder how many of you have had that experience. The fact is that none of us can drop our responsibilities. The truth is that we have 3 choices. 1, we can just end the marriage because there's something wrong with them. 2, we can own our part in it and come to the table and say, hey, I recognize that I've been really busy. I recognize that I've been fermenting my internal needs and expectations by saying everything's fine. I recognize that I want more intimacy. I want to be closer to you, and I'm working at it on my side, and I'd like you to work with me on it. Or 3, we can just keep going the way that we're going. Yeah, it's fine. You get to decide. If you've decided that you want door number 2, which is, hey, I'm here, I'm willing to do the work, I'm willing to have this be closer, more intimate, more wonderful, it's time to start prioritizing connection in the same way that you prioritize logistics, if not better. It's time to schedule in intimacy, fun, creativity. That means not being so busy. It doesn't mean getting rid of your responsibilities. It means arranging your life. You know, when I got married, my wife and I, we had kids already. We're a blended family, but we were able to get people to take care of the kids and take care of our businesses so that we could have, I think it was 4 or 5 days together. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm suggesting that every week, though, you schedule your life so that you can have 1 hour together to talk about your relationship and break bread together. I'm suggesting to you that once a week, actually, I'm suggesting that maybe 5 days a week, you get up before the kids and have coffee together and do an emotional check-in. I'm suggesting that at the end of the day, when the kids are on screens or doing homework, you do an emotional check-in, or maybe when you're going to sleep, do an emotional check-in. Really simple stuff. These investments will give you the opportunity to express those internal needs and expectations so that they're not fermenting or you're not pushing them aside, but they're on the front burner. To be really fine, you front burner your internal needs and expectations. I'm terrible at acronyms, so now that I've got one, I'm just going to beat it to death, y'all. You got to guard against busyness creep. You got to have regular emotional check-ins. And you need to redefine high functioning. High functioning isn't just about getting stuff done. It's about logistical and relational excellence. It's about knowing what a marriage looks like when it's both efficient and alive. We're going to bring life back to your marriage. That is the name of the game. And I would say, particularly guys, or if you're a woman who's kind of an alpha woman, C-suite alpha woman out there kicking butt in the corporate world, if you're very linear, have a linear goal for closeness that's measurable. It's hard to measure the actual closeness. You can measure it by sitting down and journaling how safe do I feel to share my innermost secrets today on a scale of 1 to 10? And it might be 3 today. And you want to make it a goal to feel that safe in to feel, have that be a 5 out of 10 in 3 months. Don't make your goals too lofty or aggressive. And then you just notice how you're how it feels like you're progressing. And if it doesn't feel like it's getting better, maybe you need some resources. At richinrelationship.com, we've got a free membership area with some key relationship resources. It's free. We'll send you weekly updates with more tools and more podcasts and video blog and blog information. If you find that information redundant, you're welcome to opt out. But you grab those resources. Go to richinrelationship.com and grab those resources because they're going to help you to bring back, or maybe start for the first time, a sense of intimacy, a sense that your needs and expectations are being met. That's all I have for you today. We're going to keep working our way through this subject in the next episode. In the meantime, I want you to have an awesome day and an amazing tomorrow.